welcome to Golden Table Games with your host, Nathan
and John.
Welcome back to Golden Table Games. Today we're going to talk about how to play Magic. We're going to start with the basics and then go into gameplay type. So Magic is really based on mana. You need mana to play any card.
There are 5 types of mana.
The types of land you have are island, mountain, swamp,
forest, plains.
Or if you want to go by the symbol, fire, water, tree,
sun,
skull. Each creature that you want to play costs a specific amount of mana. You're only allowed to drop 1 mana per turn. When you play Magic, depending on the type, you have to have 60 cards. Most games are 60 card games. You need to have a bunch of mana so that way you can play. You should be dropping at least 1 mana per turn. Now when playing land or mana, same thing. When you play one, you can then play a creature. Each creature costs a specific amount. You'll find it in the top right corner. If it shows a specific one, it'll show the symbol. If it just wants any, it'll show a number in a gray circle.
The gray circle is there from 1 up to the highest I seen was 11.
Now, each player is actually considered a planeswalker. You're somebody controlling these creatures. This is important because there's other cards called planeswalkers. So, as a planeswalker, you have 20 health. Your goal is to get your opponent's health down using your creatures to attack. Once you can get that opponent's health down to 0, you win the game. Now, it's very hard to do that because you have to be straight attacking and your opponent can defend themselves with other creatures or spells or instants. Speaking of spells or instants, any card that says spell on it, you read the ability, and whatever the ability says you can do, but you can only do it on your turn.
All cards are spells except for land. Sorceries is what he's calling spells right now. Sorceries can only be played on your turn. Instants can be played on any turn. All cards get added onto the stack. The stack goes from the last laid is the first to resolve. And it goes backwards like that.
Now, instants can be played on any turn. So when it comes to stack order, the first one to attack, so if you're attacking me with a creature and I use an instant to destroy it, they cancel each other out and resolve. So I don't take any damage and he loses a creature.
It worked that way because the instance resolves first, killing the creature, so you technically never attacked with the creature because it doesn't exist.
Alright, so each game you start with a 60 card deck, you take 7 cards from that. And the 7 cards that you take, you want to hope that you have, my rule is at least 3 land, but most people do it with 2 or less.
I do 3 as well.
3 land makes sure that way that you can play the whole game out pretty decently. Now, so you have 7 cards, you hope to God you get 3 land. If you don't, you can do what's called a mulligan. Take all the cards, shuffle them back in, let your opponent cut the deck if they want. And then you take 6 cards. You got to do 1 less every time.
There are certain gameplays that you don't have to, though.
Which we'll get into that when we actually start talking about those gameplays. Some people are nice and do what's called the gentleman's mulligan. Allows you to take 7 more cards. That really depends on the player. In tournament play, you're not going to see that a whole bunch. But if you're playing with friends or whatnot, you might actually see it.
Quite often, because they actually want a more fair play.
Especially, like, me and John like to play a lot, and we end up playing with those rules a lot, because either he or I will end up with a good hand, and then there's a point where I'm sitting with 5 cards going, what do I do? Because you really don't want to go below 5 cards when it comes to mulligan.
I've seen people drop down to 3, though, so... and still beat me.
We're going to kind of switch gears now. You kind of got the general gameplay. You got the images to show you what we're talking about. Oh, if your creature dies, it goes into the graveyard. Graveyard normally sits above or below your deck or library. Same name for the same thing. And you can sometimes pull creatures out of your library. It can be exiled. Exile is a remove from game pretty much.
Some decks, it's actually easier to put your graveyard off to the side of your library and stack it in a way that you can see every single card's name. Because you could be playing that deck that requires you to go in your graveyard a lot. So it just saves time knowing what's there.
And exile is literally you take the cards and you either turn them sideways in your graveyard if you don't have what's called exile removal, or you...
Which there isn't a whole lot of in the game.
Yeah. Or you kind of just throw it way off to the side. Now, some decks actually rely on exile. I have a couple. Some decks really don't. But exile pretty much disables a creature for an opponent, giving you a more open swing.
It removes it from the game, so it's almost like you never had it again. You can never touch it unless you have one of those really rare removal cards.
Or there are creatures that do a lot of exiling. Every time you lay a creature, you get to start taking opponent's cards and putting them underneath because they're gone. But if you kill that specific creature, you can get it back. Or if you remove that specific enchantment, you can get all the cards that were exiled back. Sometimes it really just depends on what's going on. Oh, yeah, we should talk about the phases. Phases are important.
There's your upkeep phase, which contains your drawing, your untapping, and there's a bunch of abilities that require you to, that say, activate in your upkeep. Then it goes to main phase 1, which allows you to lay your land, your creatures, or sorceries or instances, or artifacts. You never mentioned artifacts either. And then you go to your battle phase, which you can choose to skip over if you don't want to attack, or you declare your attacks, and then the opponent declares the blockers. And then it goes to your main phase 2, which then you can, if you didn't lay the land the first time, you can lay a land. If you still have land that's untapped, you can lay creatures or whatever again. And then it goes to your end phase, which is a really short phase that really nothing happens in unless if your card says activate in end phase.
There are actually 2 more things that we forgot to talk about. All creatures, when put in on your main phase, have summoning sickness unless they have what's called haste. Haste allows a creature to be able to attack or swing right away. And artifacts. Artifacts come in and they can be tapped right away unless they are a creature. Artifacts give you all sorts of abilities. Some give you life for certain colors that are coming on the field. Some give you 1/1 counters on creatures that you have. And 1/1 counters really just boost up your creature. They give you more attack and defense damage. You can see on your creatures your attack and defense damage in the corner. Attack is on the left and defense is on the right. That's how you decide what's a big creature, and some of them give you abilities, which is in the middle of the card, and really it's just reading. Read the card, know the ability, try and find some combos that work that way. Make sure if you build your own deck, you build a deck decently. Make sure you have more combos, some end game.
You want synergy. If you lose one card, and you don't want it to be able to shut down your deck, you want to have a backup plan.
You got to be able to make it so each card has its own individual thing going on. So if you have 2 cards that end up working together, that's good. If that's your only 2 cards that work together, you're going to get run over by a better player. Some of the first decks that I built were ones that I threw in some stuff just to hope that it would work, and my whole deck fell apart because I had 2, maybe 3 combos, and if somebody managed to remove those, I was done. That was my mistake.
Mine didn't have a whole lot of combos because it was more just getting many creatures out and swing.
So most people that play standard or are beginning or are really good at playing specific tournament types, but it's always the first 5 sets. So right now we have Zendikar.
Battle of Zendikar.
Yes, thank you. Origin.
Magic Origins. It's 2 words. You gotta have them in there.
Khans of Qatar, Dragons of Qatar, and
Fate Reforged.
Fate Reforged. Those are the 5 current sets. Most people who start out with Magic end up running those. So they end up running a completely standard deck. When me and John first started, we started at the same time, and we started around the set of Journey to the Nyx, and we went and got a deck builder box. It has like 150 to 160 cards. You can build 3 decks out of it and then have some cards left over. Well, 2 of my decks were kind of throwaways because my one deck that I made was a mill token deck. Well, I didn't have quite enough in for milling. Milling is taking from your library and throw it right into the graveyard. Well, I didn't have enough for it. I made it more into a token deck. It got very creature heavy. I had so many combos in it that it didn't work. Then I tore it apart and tried fixing it, and I just couldn't. So that deck went into dormancy.
Like I said, mine was more creatures. There was no real combos because I didn't, at this time, I've played once before, and I started again with borrowing someone else's deck, but I didn't know any combos. I wasn't into the cards anymore. Like, I didn't know what's going on.
That happened to me too. I started playing when, way back when, like 8-9 years ago.
Yeah, my first deck was a Morrowind.
I think my legal set was when Manchivore was just coming popular. So I literally had a Manchivore pre-built and then a bunch of cards that I just threw in it. I found out I had like a 100-card deck when I was done actually making it. So it was almost an EDH style deck with nothing. No combos, no nothing. It was all getting it all into the graveyard and then throwing Manjivor down and going, I win the game. But, so we both started with, we kind of knew what we were doing, and then we came back to it. And then when we came back to it, we really, really got into it, and it just kept going and building, and it was a whole lot of fun. I think we've wasted a good amount of hours just playing Magic, and even though we've wasted those hours, we've had fun doing it.
And now it's to the point that I can look at the picture of a card and go, okay, I know what that one does, and just continue on.
Well, it's to the point where people come to us and go, hey, can you help me fix this deck? I'm like, sure, pull out a deck, I'll play this one, we'll see what's wrong with it. And then we start playing it and we're like, oh, well, this is what's wrong, this is what's wrong, and we haven't even looked at the deck yet.
Yeah, we just pull out just straight shuffle it. Like, I don't even look at what colors or even have a slight idea what it's supposed to do. I shuffle it, lay it down, draw my first 7, look at them and go, okay, I think I know what you're going for. Start playing and then go, oh, yep, that's what you're going for. This is what I would do to make it better.
I normally look at the colors because that helps me determine a little bit better of what I'm getting into. But I'll either ask for it or I'll look at it myself and then I'll start playing. And then people are like, oh, you looked at the cards beforehand. I'm like, no, I looked at the color. Color really helps me because
each color has their, I want to say, own abilities kind of like your black is your life gain, life drain. Your blue is your mill.
Black and white are life gain and life drain. But black also has death touch, which a 1/1 creature can go up against a frickin' 20/20. All it has to do is 1 damage, and that 20/20 is dead.
I was going to go through them all, because white has it too. White has life gain. It's got mostly flying, or a good chunk of your flying, and vigilance is in there.
Vigilance means it can't be... When you attack, it actually untaps instead of staying tapped, because every time you attack, your creature has to stay sideways, so you're not using it again. Vigilance negates that. Flying can only be blocked with creatures that have flying or creatures that have reach. And lifelink, every time you do damage, you're getting that life back.
Your blue has allows you to go through your deck more often than any of the other colors. It's got your mill cards, which, like he said earlier, gets rid of your deck if that's what you choose to do, which you do it on theirs. Green has creature building. You want big creatures, you want green.
Hold on, don't forget that blue also has another good portion of flying, and it has a good portion of straight up, you drop a card, I cancel it.
Yeah,
and then that card goes to the graveyard.
Your red has mainly your instances and sorceries.
Don't forget that green also has trample.
Yeah.
Trample, if your creature, say we're going a 20/20 against a 5/5, and that 5/5 doesn't have death touch, and my 20/20 has trample.
Well, even with Dutch touch, it still does it.
It has trample, so you have to, when you swing, you have to block all of it. You can't just leave it alone. You can't just let it go, because that damage can still come through to you. You can only attack one creature at a time when you're attacking, but you can defend with your whole army if you have to.
Now, every color has everything that we're saying to some degree. It's just more common in the ones we're saying.
This is true. So red, you get a lot of your haste. You get a lot of your
instants and sorceries, which deal damage directly.
and red has a lot of big creatures too. Red-green decks are very common because of that. Blue-black decks are evil because black has a bunch of mill too, but it also has
Remove from graveyard.
removal from graveyard, regenerate. It has negative counters. So if your creature is a 5/5 and I have a negative on it, your creature's dead. It dies from lack of health. Its defense is also its health.
Because if you look at the colors, you got an idea of what they're going for. Because each two combo or one card, you know, okay, blue-black, you're probably going to mill or counter. You're going to be control, basically. Red-green, you're probably going to have big creatures. Green-black, you're probably going to beef up your guys and lower their guys. There's just every combination has their own format, basically.
To add to that, we missed one thing in green. Green has positive counters. So like black has the negative to make your guys drop. Green has the positive to make your guys go way up. So you can have a 5/5 and drop a +4, and now it's a 9/9 with trample. That was one thing we forgot. That's what he was talking about.
Or just use Charging Badger.
You and your badgers and your goats. You're terrible. He has the most random deck style, and it just happens to work. He can put something funny in there on purpose, and then we end up struggling against it because he's evil like that.
I see combos. I'm sorry.
Well, me and you both do. That's just like the one white-black lifelink deck that we built. That thing was so overpowered, it's not even funny.
We built someone else a deck that destroyed ours. With cards that mainly he owned, and they weren't even good cards at that. They were your common, generic, everyone owns 1,000 of them cards, and it still beat us.
And we're sitting there, and we're throwing all these combos in and everything else going, this'll be good, this'll be good, this'll be good. I played it, and I beat one of my better decks, and then it beat one of John's better decks, and it just kept going like that over and over and over again, and it started to get annoying. There was a point in time where we literally ended up calling that deck the OP deck or the overpowered deck, because I've watched it make other decks cry with 2 creatures on the field. I literally got one of my cousins to get so angry at me because I'm swinging with 1 creature with flying and lifelink and death touch, and I overran a dragon deck. All right, so Khans of Qatar and Khans of Dragons, he has a standard deck for that, and I just plowed through it. I took out all of his big dragons, I took out all of his lower dragons, and there was nothing he could do to keep up with me. The problem that I really have with standard is it's that top 5 set. So right now you can build a decent deck, but there's not enough meshing cards between the top 5. Khans of Qatar and Khans of Dragon you can use to make a decent dragon deck, but it's not going to run quite right without certain cards. Fate Forged and Origins, it's not really a bunch of good combos with that. Fate Forged you can throw into Khans of Qatar and Khans of Dragon. Origins you can throw in with the Battle of Zendikar, but Zendikar is really based on those human allies right now, and well, any allies, not even just human. There's humans, elves, all of it, but it's really based on allies and Eldrazi. Without really getting into it, Eldrazi is colorless, it's an artifact, and you can't get any of the really good artifacts that make your artifacts indestructible or make it so you can't lose the game. All of those are in the older sets. You're stuck with what you got, and you got to hope you can build something really good out of those top 5 sets. But say you have something right now, the bottom set is Khans of Takar. Once the new set comes out, now you have to replace all of those cards.
Each set has what's going on. Like this Battle of Zendikar, allies versus Drazis, because the story is, I don't actually know the story, but they're fighting over Zendikar. And Khans of Qatar and Dragons of Qatar are basically fighting against each other, even though they're two different sets.
If you want a straight answer, because there is a backstory, we just play the game. We don't really focus on that backstory, but if you absolutely want to know, go to wizardsofthecoast.com. It'll show you D&D. It'll give you sheets for that. It'll give you Magic. So you have those there. You even have a card finder in the Magic set. We end up using that a lot. That's going to be my little shout out. They're not paying me for this. I'm just being nice. Go there, check it out. They do have a backstory. They have a bunch of what we're saying. They have the rules there. They have the different types, game types, which in a couple of these podcasts we're going to break down, and then we're going to tell you about our own podcast, which, well, not podcast, our own game type, which we made, and it took a little bit. So there's that. But each set builds, but they don't always build off of each other. So you have Battle for Zendikar and Zendikar. Those two would build off of each other, but you can't use anything in the Zendikar. Then you're leaning more into the Magic, into the modern game type. But that's the thing. You use the top 5 sets. If you're using anything from Khans of Qatar, as soon as that new set comes out, Khans of Qatar is out. Now you have to come up with something new. You got to find cards to replace that, and you got to keep doing that. And that's why we don't play a lot of Standard. In the beginning, we did.
There's a lot of cards with different names and different sets that do basically the same thing. So they do that. They reprint cards from older sets. That way you can kind of keep up with what you're trying to do in your deck. But it doesn't always work. Like Origins, the story behind that is it's telling you how the Planeswalkers became what they are. So you start off with like the human version of them, and then they become magical when you flip them.
Which there's a lot of good flip Planeswalkers. But yeah, you have all these Planeswalkers. Now you need to build a deck. Well, I could build a decent ally deck, an elf ally deck with the Elven Planeswalker that I have. Nissa. Yeah, I have the Nissa flip side, and that was a good grab on my part. I like it. I actually am trying to build an EDH deck for it because elf decks and EDH are evil. We'll get to EDH a little bit later, but pretty much it's a 100 card deck and it's amazing. A lot more fun.
More strategy.
Yeah. Standard is very hard because it's very hard to keep specific strategies going. You have to take and revamp and change it every single new set that comes out. As much as I like getting the new cards, I like looking at the old cards because you get cool art, you get weird borders and everything else. So I like playing a lot of the older sets and throwing them into a deck because I'll find something that works.
Cards that they took out because they figured out too many combos make them overpowered.
Yeah. So when you're playing Standard, you have those cards that you're just looking at going, what am I going to do with this? And you have a bunch of common cards that are like 1-drops that are 1/1s and you have nothing.
But then when you throw in the modern, you see that same card and you're like, oh, I can pair it with this card from 8 sets ago and it works beautifully.
Or when we get into modern, there's something called infinite creaturing, which is really annoying, but I've seen 5 different ways to do it, and every time I see it, I just get run over. There's nothing I can do.
Yeah, the only thing you can do is a field wipe, which screws you over too.
Me and him can sit and build you a really awesome deck, but if you don't know how to play it, or you can't figure out the combos by looking at it, you're not going to get very far. Because me and him have built some brutal decks.
We've built 2 decks for our buddy, and neither one of them he can figure out. And one just kind of is not very good. You got to get all the correct cards in the right order, which is kind of how all decks run. But the other one that we built, you get almost any card you can win. It's a really good deck. He just doesn't see the combos, so he doesn't know what he's doing.
So the big thing is, if you're going to build a deck, make sure you put plenty of combos in there.
And you understand them.
Yeah, and you understand them. If you have any questions on a deck, go to somebody. Go hit your local card shop, take a look, ask for help. If you find somebody playing Magic, they look like they know what they're doing, talk to them.
Most Magic players will help out new Magic players or even old Magic players because it's a community.
Seriously, Magic the Gathering is a community because we're all addicted to the cardboard crack. We started with 150 and combined, I think we have over 500,000 cards or more.
Yeah, I got like 2 normal sized boxes, your paper boxes, full of cards.
Yeah, so I have a lot of cards too. I'm working on filling out my second binder. There's something called fat pack boxes that you can get, and I have 4 of those filled with cards. One of them is just my basic land cards. It's ridiculously addicting, and it's really fun and easy to get into because everybody will help you.
And yet you still save more money than that 40K thing.
Oh yeah. Warhammer 40K is more expensive. Yu-Gi-Oh cards are more expensive.
Pokemon's getting up there now too even.
Yeah. So right now the easiest thing to do is just sit down. Even if you grab a starter deck and sit down and start playing with people. Some people are nice and they'll play a slower deck because starter decks are very hard to get into and play with because you got to add so much extra to it.
They are designed to run well and be efficient. They're just the way we play. We don't like them.
People who have been playing long enough know how to make a deck that runs well and efficient and faster.
Yep.
That's one of the big things with starter decks is speed. They either come off fast or they don't come off fast enough after somebody's tampered with theirs just enough. I've taken starter decks and turned them into monstrous evil decks. I've taken decks that people were like, so starter deck, one of them is a red-blue scry deck that I got for Journey to the Nyx. My buddy had it and played 5 different games with it and said, I can't seem to get this to run right. Threw it down and people started scavenging off of it. Somebody took like 10 cards. I grabbed it, threw 10 cards in that I knew would work, shuffled it, figured out how to play it. I won 4 different times with that deck just against friends. And then me and John here went to a modern tournament because, you know, it's fun to go to those and they're free where we are sometimes. You go in, you start playing, and this guy, well, we're both playing standard decks, comes up to us, drops a mat in between us and says the winner of this game gets the mat. You two are the only ones that don't have a mat. And we kind of looked around like, oh yeah, I guess we don't have a mat.
Out.
And he's like, somebody brought this in, they bought a better mat and said, I don't want this. Well, me and him are already 1 for 1 on a game, and all it would take was me to end my turn for John to win, and I managed to pull something just out of nowhere because Scry allows you to look at the top card and start adjusting it, and you can look at the top card, you don't like it, throw it at the bottom. Well, I have a bunch of creatures that build off Scry. Half of my deck allows me to sit in Scry while I'm building up. So I'm doing all of those, and Scry comes first in the stack. So I have creatures that allow me to attack. Well, Scry comes first. So I get a Scry, and then I have creatures that are building up off of that. So the Scry comes, then the build up comes, and then I get an attack. So by the time I was done, I swung at him with a creature that was like an 8-10 just off my Scry, and it started off as a 1-2.
And there was nothing I could do about it.
And that's how I won. So starter decks are good. Starter decks are mainly good against other starter decks. But once you can start seeing the combos that they threw in there and start building off of that, you're going to have a better time. And normally you can go get a starter deck for like $20. And it comes with 2 extra packs too, so you have a chance at getting other cards besides what's in the starter deck. They give you a sideboard and just kind of a general, here's how to build a deck. If you have any more questions on how to build a deck, like if you're not seeing the combos or anything, you can still go to Wizards of the Coast. They give you all sorts of advice. Go to your local card shop, see if you can catch somebody playing Magic, because if you can sit and watch and then ask for advice. Sometimes they'll help you. Some people are, well, unsavory.
Or you could just go to, if you have an idea, like you want to build off of one card and you know you want this card, just Google that card and put it after deck. Put deck after that, It'll bring up thousands of decks that are off that one card.
Well, that or trial and error. Trial and error is the best way to do it. I sat on one deck for a whole year trying to make it work. And by the time I was done with it, it was my top deck. That rat deck that I built,
Oh, yeah.
I literally built a deck based off a creature type and made it work. And the problem that I was having originally is people kept flying over it, so I kept throwing like demons and stuff in there. Well, that didn't work. The demons were too big and bulky, and some of them demanded a sacrifice, as weird as it sounds.
Of his own cards, yeah. So he's
Looking
losing cards.
Looking
while
at it,
trying
it
to
just
build
didn't
cards.
work. So I'm like, you know what? Pure black isn't going to work. Why don't I throw this blue card right down there? So this blue card literally gives all my creatures flying.
And takes it away from the opponent.
So now I have an army of rats that are building up this one rat that I can make copies of, exact token copies, just by discarding part of my hand. And now I'm flying at you with 4 20/20s.
And the only way you can block at that point is reach.
And if you don't have green in your deck, you don't really have reach. There's no guaranteed reach. So to recap, we don't like standard, but it's a good way to start.
The easiest way to start.
It's the easiest way to start. Just go out and buy a starter deck. If you want to adjust it and make it better, talk to people, go online, do some research. If you can find us, go right ahead. We're not going to tell you where we're at, because that's the last thing we need is 10 million people going, hey, help us. No. We don't have enough time for that. We got lives too.
If you do find us, we will help. We won't just go away.
Oh no, we're not like that. We'll help you. We have so many cards, we might just drop some cards on you. Some of them we might make you trade for, but hey, that's part of the game.
Yeah. Recently, I've just been handing cards out. I'm like, here, have fun. I don't need them.
Or I've turned around and like he said, we built our buddy a really good deck, and he can't see the combos, but we threw so many of our cards at it that it works. So you find us, we'll throw cards. Yeah, that's pretty much what we got. That was Golden Table Games with your hosts, Nathan
And John.
We hope you come back next week and listen in for more.
Peace.